Welcome back, CrackBacks. We had a little hiatus there. Somebody turned 30. I'm not going to point to who it is. Happy birthday to Ricky Leaky. That's why we were out last week here. But we are back heavy into the draft season. NBA was trade deadline day to day. We've got a lot of things happening. Soccer is going on right now, but we're going to jump right into it. You know that we're all big football fans here, and we've been talking about draft here and there a little bit. We're going to get through the first round over the next couple things. Now, going through 32 picks in one show is just, unless it's the actual draft, is a bit much. So breaking it down into a few different pieces here so that make it a little palatable for you. Yo, turn that off, yo, man. I'm trying to talk, man. So try 1 second here, dude. All right, so as we're trying to explain here, so over the next 3 shows or so, we're gonna break down the first 32 picks. We got the first 6 here. Chose 6. Why? Because our teams, me, Falcons, Ricky Leaky with the Jets, and you see the Jets at the Eagles jersey on down below. Our team's picking the first 6 picks. So we're gonna knock those out first with the first entry of the CrackBacks draft. So we're gonna get right into it. We already know who's been on the clock for quite some time now. We've been looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars. They brought in your boy Urban Meyer.
Not my boy.
They're doing a full retool of the whole spot. But the first pick is in. We're not even going to waste any time with it here. Everybody knows what's happening with the first pick. And the first pick comes through with big surprise. The big quarterback out of Clemson, Trevor Lawrence, is going to first pick. The entire world was expecting this. Go ahead, boys. Crack back on this pick. Do you have anything to crack back on it? Would you do anything different?
Yo, man, motherfucker looks like Jar Jar Binks.
No, I mean, it's been the consensus for a while. I think a college offense is going to fit him better starting off because he didn't really run anything real typical to a pro-style system in college, so it's going to be less of a learning curve for him. So it's a good spot for him. I do question if Urban can actually transition to the NFL. It's a different game. You can't treat the players the same. But for him, it seems to be a good situation. He's close to the area, too, where he's from.
Get.
Honestly, man, this dude been the number 1 pick in the draft since he was a senior in high school. He was the number 1 overall recruit. He was a fucking 5-star recruit. Everybody loved him, even in the Army high school all-star game. The dude fucking went off for like 300 yards. He only played like a quarter. In college, he only did nothing but kind of prove that pedigree. A lot of people doubt him based off of like 1 or 2 games where he struggled a little bit. I think that's ridiculous. Over 3 years in college, he had 11,000 yards, 67% completions. He had 90 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. Now, I'm not going to math on you, but I think that ratio is probably pretty good.
Pretty solid.
He also had 940 rushing yards and 18 touchdowns on the ground. So he can run. Huge. He's 6'5", 6'6", prototypical, rocket arm. He also played the last couple games in this season, which was his junior year, with a torn labrum in his shoulder. So it kind of shows his toughness. He was 34-2 as a starter, only lost 2 games in his entire college career. One of those was against LSU in the national championship game against what a lot of people consider maybe the best college football team ever. He won a title as a true freshman at Clemson. And then his only other loss was against Ohio State in the playoffs, again, with a torn shoulder. So the kid's definitely got the pedigree. He's definitely got the stats. He's got the look of a number 1 pick. It's just basically a railroad pick. They have to take him. A lot of people say in Jacksonville, like if they didn't take him, they would burn down the stadium. But I'm here to tell you, nobody in Jacksonville cares that much. They wouldn't burn down the stadium.
No, well, he's going to be the London Jaguars starting quarterback in a couple of years here if Shah Khan gets his pick. No, I agree. There's really nothing much to say about this pick. We've known since he was in high school that at some point, whenever he decides to go in the NFL draft, Trevor Lawrence is going to be the first pick in the draft. Urban gets to pay his players without having to hide it now. They've got a nice running back. They've got a decent receiving core. It's a full reset down there in Jacksonville, but you're getting some skill position placed in there. Not a big surprise of what was going on with the first pick with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The intrigue starts.
Where do we go now?
The intrigue starts on the second pick. Now, I didn't do any trades on this one here. We're going to keep it static here. We can talk about trades on a later show. We got another month before the draft comes up here. But the pick the pick for the second pick is coming in here, and it is the Jets on the clock. So I'm going to just lean back because I'm the one to put the list together here. But where do we think the Jets are going with the second pick, fellas, while they're in their war room there figuring out what's going on?
Come on, let's go. Put the pick up.
Enrique, it's your team, man. I'll give you 2 seconds before I hit it.
No, just go ahead and put the pick, and I'll comment on it after.
You sound nervous.
A little bit.
Nah, I told you, man. I did this how I think it's actually going to happen. I didn't pick this vindictively. If we were doing that, I'll do that. I'll do that when we get to where the Cowboys have a pick. I'll give them somebody stupid. But the second pick coming up right now, the pick is in, and it is coming up as boom, and out of BYU.
There it is.
So I'll say this much. I was telling you guys earlier. From people like media sources I trust in Twitter have been telling me they're going to take a quarterback. They want to reset the clock for the rookie contract, even though I don't get that. We have a lot of cap space. And obviously the GM wants to bring in his own guy. He didn't draft Darnold. But 2 days ago, I was up till 2 a.m. watching Zach Wilson film. I was up that late because I was really bored. And wow, like when I heard Chris Sims say he's better than Trevor Lawrence, I was like, oh, he's full of shit. He's not, dude. Like what he was asked to do when he played at BYU simulates what he's going to be asked to do in the NFL a lot more than anything Trevor Lawrence did. Because in contrast, when Trevor Lawrence beat Alabama, Clemson had a better team. They had 3 defensive linemen go in the first round of the NFL draft.
No slight in beating that. There's never a slight in beating Alabama. It's the only thing I'm going to push back on there with that.
Yeah.
Everything else you're saying, I'm with you on everything else, but you beat Alabama with Nick Saban as their head coach in the last 20 years or however long he's been there. There's no slight at ever beating Alabama.
I'm not saying it's a slight.
Who the hell has Zach Wilson beat?
Let me finish my statement.
Sure, go ahead.
It's more impressive to me when Deshaun Watson beat Alabama because Alabama had the better team. It was clear that he was the best player on the field, where it was a blowout. It didn't seem like Trevor Lawrence carried Clemson over the hump versus Bama like everyone saw that Deshaun Watson did, right? And the other thing you mentioned is level of competition, which is true. It's a concern. But to me, what's more important is what he's doing that's actually simulating an NFL game. Trevor Lawrence throws to wide open targets. He's never asked to make second level throws to drop in coverage. He never has to throw his receivers open. This guy does that.
The competition, and I'm with you on everything other than the Alabama slight there. And the competition, who were they playing? Who did Carson Wentz play when he was in college? Who did Trey Lance play when they were in college? They weren't even at Division I, at Power 5 conferences.
Who did Tony Romo play?
Well, that's a complete. You have to say that when Sage is here. But I feel you on that. There's concerns about size. I know we'll get to that. What gets in a second here, talking about if he's too short or whichever. Kid seems like he can spin it. You changed your tune over the last few weeks there as you looked at him more.
Yeah.
I do think that you're right. New regime came in. They want to move on from Darnold. That wasn't their guy. So I honestly think this is what's going to be happening here, where Darnold's going to be moved on to somewhere else, and it's going to be wearing green on Sundays.
Who took Darnold?
Your GM. He's asking you, Rick. Who was the GM when they took Darnold?
Oh, McCagnon.
I don't even know who that is.
Exactly.
So yeah, if we're going to talk about Trey Lawrence.
Trey Lance.
Trevor Lawrence, you mean? Trey Lance or Trevor Lawrence is one.
If we're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence, like having a D-line beating Alabama, you got to talk about who Zach Wilson played. Who did Zach Wilson ever beat? Like, who did he beat? Utah? Nevada? I don't even know what conference they're in, BYU.
Yeah, but
those games are on too late for me. I'm asleep.
And it wasn't like he was screwed up. The playing field was still level because it wasn't like he was playing on Clemson of that level of competition. He was playing against relatively level teams. He was a clear difference.
But Trevor Lawrence is beating Alabama, Ohio State, LSU in national playoff games.
Florida State
lost to them.
Zach Wilson can't even get into the playoffs.
The last 2 college football playoff games he struggled, so that's not true at all.
Who did they struggle against?
He struggled against Ohio State this past game. and he struggled against LSU in the championship. And LSU had an awful defense the entire year. Again, I'm just nitpicking. He should definitely be the first quarterback because
awful defense.
Everything.
At least half of LSU's defense was high round draft picks.
Yeah, they
Here's
had
the thing.
high-end talent,
Here's the thing.
but the product on the field was a very low-ranked defense compared to the Power 5.
Here's the thing. Zach Wilson has played nobody. If he was a generational talent, if he was Trevor Lawrence level, then he would have went undefeated in that conference. He never did. I don't know who he beat.
Neither did Patrick Mahomes.
But they didn't go undefeated, right? I mean, how many different quarterbacks are you going to bring up? We're talking about Zach Wilson.
Right, but using the level of competition, that's not that valid of an argument because Patrick Mahomes played in the Big 12 where there was zero defense, which is probably why he got drafted as far back as he did, because nobody believed his numbers were that good because the Big 12 defense was so shitty. Aaron Rodgers played in the Pac-12. There wasn't much competition there either. Like, there's really only 3 conferences that are consistently bringing multiple teams with, like, a whole lot of NFL players. Every other conference has 1 or 2 NFL players.
Let's be honest. Every single mock draft and every single report has had the Jets taking this kid for like 2 months. So now you're talking yourself into the pick, trying to make yourself believe that it's a good pick, which I understand.
No, I watch film. I watch film. It's completely different.
I empathize about it. I know you're a super scout now. I understand. The kids,
super scout, because I actually watch film. I now have to be insulted as a super scout. I'm being that serious.
Are you a scout now? I don't know. You keep saying you watch film and you watch this and you watch that. I don't know.
I mean, the film is available to anybody. As long as you have
go on YouTube, you don't have to be a scout
you can watch anything. So the calling scout or whatever is irrelevant. I understand where he's coming from because I did the same shit when the Knicks traded for Andrea Bargnani. I started watching film and trying to figure out to myself, this guy, maybe he can fit in. But the thing is, you're not alone. A lot of people are with you saying that he can admit. Few people are saying he's better than Lawrence, things of that sort. And it's the shorts Olympics. But he did look good in his pro day. The ball comes out of his hand nice. He does have a really strong arm. I get what both of you are saying. He looks good on film. Film's also highlights. So if you're watching highlights, everybody's going to pretty much look good on highlights. But I think this is going to happen. New regime is in there. Nuke is going to bring in their guy. They're going to get Darnold out of there, who really didn't do a lot to win the job himself. He was just kind of a pedestrian quarterback. But you're going to have a new guy in Gang Green coming on Sunday soon.
The kid has a good arm. There's no doubt. He has a fucking rocket arm. He spins it well. He's accurate. There's no doubt about his arm. My thing is he's small. He looks like he's about 5'10". And we just saw last year the Dolphins took Tua at 5, and the dude couldn't even hold on to the job. Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's been a journeyman quarterback his whole entire career on shitty-ass teams, they kept pulling Tua to put Fitz into the game because Tua was too small to see the receivers. Now, I played with a short quarterback. I played with a short quarterback.
But hold on, but you're that's you deciding that he's short. He's listed at 6'3" everywhere. He's listed at 6'3" everywhere. So unless one of us stood next to him with a tape measure, we can only go by what he's listed at. Even if they took 2 inches off.
When he plays at BYU,
it's 6. But even if they take 2 inches off, he's still 6'1". He's not short.
He's not that big. He looks small.
Not that short.
Looking short.
Exactly.
Looking short. Steph Curry's almost 6'4". Steph Curry doesn't look that tall when he's playing ball because the guys are around him. You've decided that he's short. We don't have proof that he's short or not.
You don't have proof that he's tall either.
But we have information. We've been given information that he's 6'3", and you've decided that it's wrong. So the short thing is on you.
That's what it comes down to.
The short thing is on you.
If he stands next to a wide receiver who's 6 foot tall and he's clearly taller, and the receiver is listed at 6 foot.
Chris Paul's 6'3", and he doesn't look that tall on TV. That's all I'm saying. So you decided that all the pundits and everything on the internet's wrong.
Chris Paul's small against all the other dudes, and Zach Wilson is small against all the other dudes. If he plays at BYU and he has one offensive lineman that's 6'4", 6'5", when he plays in the NFL, all of his offensive line is going to be 6'4", 6'5".
And that's not an issue if he's 6'2".
It's hard to see the receivers when you're a small quarterback behind an offensive line. Also, the whole argument of his arm is so great. Kyle Bowler could throw it through a fucking broadside of a barn, and he sucked. Jamarcus Russell had the best pro day ever, and he was garbage, the biggest bust in NFL history. So don't sit here and tell me how electric his arm is and how great his fucking throwing is. I don't care, man. The dude played at BYU against subpar competition, didn't go undefeated, didn't go into the playoffs.
Now, Jamarcus
All right,
Russell
well,
was a complete.
Was he a
we're going
Heisman
on-
finalist?
we're going
Was he a
on
Heisman finalist?
We're going
How
on to the
good were
next
his
pick.
stats?
We're going on to the next pick in a second here, but Jamarcus Russell was a bust because Jamarcus Russell, it was up here. Nothing
Yeah,
physical.
and there's another thing that
Bowler sucked, but Jamarcus Russell didn't want to be good.
And there's another thing I need to debunk, and I just pulled it up right now. The depth chart of BYU's offensive line.
Stat boy.
Tanner Baker, 6'6". Barrington, 6'6". Tyler Beatty, 6'5". There's
That would
multiple
explain why
guys.
he looked a little small at 6'3".
Let's look up
they
his
don't have
record.
small
Let's
dudes.
look up the teams that he played and what were the scores of the games.
So a team related, like
Look up his record.
But Gets that's irrelevant, dude. You
His
loved
record is irrelevant?
Listen, you loved Carson Wentz. You did. And Carson Wentz probably played lesser competition than Zach Wilson did in college. So, so you can say that, but sometimes you got to really...
Carson Wentz went undefeated in college.
And you better do it in fucking Montana, North Dakota, wherever the fuck they went to play. If he plays in a Division I, you think he's not going undefeated if he goes and plays somewhere where he has to play Alabama, if he has to go somewhere and he has to play Clemson or Ohio State. So I understand competition.
You're arguing my point.
It does matter to a point, but also Matt Ryan didn't have a stellar record at Boston College. He just happened to be the best quarterback coming out that year. Sometimes it is the player. And again, you really love the guy that didn't play the competition that Zach Wilson probably did because he wasn't even in a Power 5 conference. You don't like the guy. We'll find out what happens. I do think the Jets
move on.
I do think we are moving on. I do think the Jets are going to be having here Zach Wilson under center coming up here. And on with the third pick, a lot of people think it's going to get traded. The Miami Dolphins are staying put at number 3, and they're getting themselves a weapon, an absolute weapon. They're going to run that 2 tight end set that with Gesicki and Kyle Pitts that Flores brought down when he had Gronk and the murderer when he was up there in New England. This is going to make Miami maybe the favorite to win the East.
What?
Damn. He's really good.
We got to see Jared Allen play a second year of the way like he did this year before we can start saying that Buffalo is going to be like a champion moving forward, that sort of thing. Miami's not
Josh
bad.
Allen?
You know what I'm saying? Oh, you don't come up. I can rewind right now with your Trevor Lance or whatever the guy's name is right now.
I don't do it every week.
So
yeah, it's part of my charm. Kyle Pitts on the Dolphins. I like it for him. You're giving Tua another weapon. If you really are going to invest into him as your starting quarterback moving forward, you got to give him, another big target, a red zone target, even somebody that can, beat a safety, a linebacker down the field for some big plays as well.
Well, here's the issue with that pick that I see, because I mean he's a great player. I love Kyle Pitts. He's real nasty, but they have Gesicki, so now you're having 2 pass catching, non-blocking. Even though I think he can block better than Gesicki, there's good film on him blocking. But you're really having 2 of the same guys. And if they have a Chase available, it doesn't make sense to take that when they kind of already have a similar guy who's maybe not as good. But at least when Ryan Fitzpatrick played, Gesicki was nasty. It's not, his fault that Tua can't really see the field that well. So I don't really like the fit that much. I don't know. I don't know. He's a great player. I don't like the fit in Miami. They're already good in the middle. They need somebody on the outside.
I like Pitts as a player. I just don't like the pick. Like, the dude is definitely a tweener.
Which means I did it perfect. Nobody likes the Dolphin pick. I got it right.
Yeah.
He's big. He's like 6'4", 230. He's kind of a matchup nightmare in the red zone because, who do you have guard him? If you have a 5'10", 5'11" corner, he's not going to be big enough for him, and a safety or a linebacker isn't going to be able to stay with him. He's got great hands. He's a great red zone target. But I don't like the pick. I don't like a tight end going this high. We've discussed this many times that you get better tight ends and you can get tight ends in later rounds, 3rd, 4th rounds. There's been guys in the NFL that have come from basketball and converted to all pro tight ends, dudes that you get in the 6th or 7th round or undrafted free agents. So to draft a tight end this high has historically proven to be a really bad pick. And with him, I mean, what are you really getting? Is he a tight end or is he a receiver? He's not really a good He's not really a good tight end because he can't block. I don't know what film you watched where you
don't
say
have
he's a good
to,
blocker.
but it's.
All right, stop
not
interrupting me. Let me say
I'm
what
not
I'm
saying
saying.
about the blocking. Now listen, man. Listen, you putting on fucking music in the beginning and shit when I'm trying to talk, and when I'm talking to you because it's supposed to be a conversation.
You're asking me to
You're
give
telling
my
me to
take,
stop,
and then you're
no,
interrupting me while I'm giving you my take.
But we're talking back and forth here. You asked a question: is he a tight end or a wide receiver? He is a tight end. In the NFL, you don't have to be a great blocker to be a tight end, to be a productive tight end now. So he's not a receiver. He is a tight end.
Travis Kelce doesn't block.
Waller
Travis Kelce doesn't block. Hayden Hurst doesn't block in
like
Atlanta.
The only one who really
Hunter Henry didn't block in San Diego. You don't have to be a good blocker. They're in pass routes 90% of the time now.
So what I was saying is he's more of a receiver or an H-back. You're going to play him on the outside. So if you're drafting at number 3 and you have Jamar Chase available, why take this dude to play him as a receiver? He's not a good blocker. Watch that film you sent the other day. He doesn't block anybody. He's trying to pass block on the outside, giving up sacks. He's pulling on the inside on a counter, and there's people crossing his face left and right. If you need an explanation of what that is, let me know.
Miami just signed Kyle Fuller as well. They may be a little higher on them than any of the three of us are right now. This is based off of all the picks I did here, based off of just looking at Twitter, looking at all of the pundits for each team, and kind of seeing who they're pointing at. And people in Miami, their beat writers and the folks that run all their kind of web stuff seem to be pointing at Kyle Pitts right now. So if no one likes the pick, that means I hit it spot on because nobody ever likes Dolphin picks.
Will Fuller, the receiver, not the corner.
Yeah, but somebody part of the charm again. Somebody named Fuller, he's got dreadlocks. He was hurt all the time when he played in fucking Houston. He's down in Miami. Maybe they think that he could be a number 1. Maybe they think, did they keep Devontae Parker still there?
And they're still high on him. That's exactly why I get why the internet is saying that, because they did sign Will Fuller. They got him for cheap because he's really an 8-game player who wanted a 16-game contract. But when he's on the field, he can be a wide receiver 1. We saw it last year. But he's just never on the field. And they still like Parker. Yeah, and they still like Parker. The organization is still really high on him.
And as much as everyone says, they have Gesicki, this is a major upgrade over Gesicki.
But I'm just saying, if you're going to take an outside guy, you might as well take Chase there.
But he's not an outside guy though. And I get what you're saying, right? You can flank him out wide and he's fast enough to play on the outside. But Kelce is about the same size speed ratio as he's right here. They don't always flank him out. He runs a lot of drag routes. He's across the middle. And like you said, he's a great red zone target. Gesicki, good red zone target. Now you have both of them. Now you have both of them. And you're also saying you got a little quarterback that's having trouble finding lanes to throw. You can always go high when you're throwing to Kyle Pitts. So you're giving your quarterback who had a rough time last year and has physical limitations. You're giving him a weapon to actually try to give him a chance to succeed. Fourth pick. It's my squad here. He's going to pop up on the screen. Again, it is what I want, but it's also what I'm seeing people saying around here because we did restructure Matt Ryan again. He gave another $10 million in cap space this year. We can't move him for 2 more years. So if you're drafting a quarterback this year, you're literally going to have them sit and not play until their 3rd year, which is not what quarterbacks have been doing recently. The last one that sat for that long was Rodgers probably. But Sewell comes in. You still have Julio. You still have Matt. We just signed a new running back. And this is the right move for Atlanta right now.
Is there anybody in the Atlanta front office that has any ties to anyone in Green Bay's office right now? Like anybody come from there?
Do not know. Fontenot is the new GM. He came from the Saints. I don't think we have anyone that has. I mean, but it's reverse. LaFleur went from Atlanta up to Green Bay, but we don't have anyone in here that had anything linked to Green Bay.
No, I was just curious because I've seen that too, and I've seen a lot of the intrigue of, because it is very hard to cut Matt Ryan's contract now, but to get somebody raw like Trey Lance and to have him sit 2 years behind. I don't how forward thinking, like the GM's brand new, right? Like the GM, so he's got some time to be thinking long term. Whereas if like a lame duck guy like Gettleman, for example, is paying basically for all the poor drafting he's done the last few years by overpaying for everyone who was either hurt or not very good. So that's something to take into consideration as well too. I mean, that's a great pick, obviously.
It's a combo pick here too. It's a need, and it's in my opinion, best player on the board considering the first 3 that have gone already.
All right, look, number 1, love the player. Love the kid. He's fucking massive, 6'5", 6'6", probably 330, 340, 350, depending on how far away you are from breakfast.
Athletic.
And the dude is just a dominator. He only played his first 2 years. He actually opted out his junior year and then declared for the draft. In his sophomore year, he started as a true freshman, obviously. In his sophomore year, which is, his first real year playing and dominating, he won the Outland Trophy, which is best offensive lineman in the country. So he was basically the best offensive lineman in the country as a sophomore in college. He's versatile. He can play any position on the line. He'll come in as a left tackle. That's the one big thing about drafting quarterbacks, man. If you draft a left tackle, if you draft an offensive lineman that high, even if he's off, even if he's bad as a left tackle, you can move him to left guard. You can move him to right guard. You can move him to right tackle. Center, maybe not, but he can definitely be a guard or a tackle. So it's less likely to be a bust pick. If you take a quarterback in the top 5 and he's not good, he's moving to the bench. He ain't going to slide around and play different positions on the field. So this pick here, love it. Absolutely love it. If you think Matt Ryan can still deal, I don't watch that many Falcons games, but if Matt Ryan can still play, you draft a kid and he's, rocking the blind side for the whole 16.
Ryan, when he's got some protection, he's had some decent protection, has still put up good numbers. It's hard for secondaries to cover both Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. And then when you add in, a Hurst and then the backs coming out of the backfield, you give him a few seconds, somebody's going to get open. Those are pretty skill position guys there. But he's been getting hit a lot the last few years. Never had a great tackle. Been trying to get one for him. He got drafted. He came in.
Yeah, you drafted enough guys.
We tried with Matthews. They even Caleb McGarry. They drafted to play on the right side a couple of years. He might still be okay. Matthews has been not a disappointment, not quite a bust because he has been a starter in the NFL, but he's been a definite disappointment. Major upgrade. This would be the best.
And look at the picture. Look at the eye black. The dude's Samoan. He's from a warrior culture. He wants the ball.
Big fan. I hope that the Atlanta front office is listening to me. Bring Sewell in. There's always a quarterback. If you're not getting Trevor Lawrence this year, everybody else we've seen before. Lawrence is the one generational quarterback. Lance may be good. Fields may be good. Don't get intrigued with the fact that Fields is a Georgia kid. Stay the course. Take the left tackle. Plug him in there for the next 10 years in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Mike Ken Part 2.
Agreed.
So we're coming up on the 5th pick here. Cincinnati. So Cincinnati had the first pick last year. Burrows balled out. Then he hurt his knee. So they're back at the 5th pick. On the clock and
there it is.
With Sewell off the board, Jamar Chase comes in to replace A.J. Green, who is now off to Arizona, greener pastures out west. Have at.
It just makes too much sense. It makes too much sense.
I'm not big on that pick. I think the number one priority for that team is to protect Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow is the quarterback that is able to throw people open. He can throw his anticipation. And the kid they drafted from Clemson last year was pretty good. And they already had a second receiver who's decent too. I think the number one priority for that team should be protecting Joe Burrow, and they should be taking Rashawn Slater. Not that this guy's not phenomenal. He's my favorite receiver, but I think it's more important to protect the guy. Jonah Williams is not going to cut it. That was their first round pick 2 years ago. He's probably have to slide inside. He's nowhere near quick enough or long enough to be playing tackle and protecting Joe Burrow.
DG?
I love him. I love Jamar Chase. I sent you guys a stat the other day. Over the last 2 years, most touchdowns over 20 yards. Jamar Chase had like 20, and the next closest guy had like 14. Devontae Smith, who just won the Heisman with like a historical season, only had 13 over the last 2 years. And Jamar Chase ain't even play last year.
No, and Chase more of a prototypical size receiver as well.
This guy is an animal. Yeah, Jamar Chase is at least, 6'2", 6'3", 215,
Long
220.
arms.
Yeah, it looks like T.O. That type of body can burn. He'll run right by you, or he'll go up over you on a 50-50 ball and get it. Joe Burrow's already got the chemistry with him. I think at this point, if the picks did roll out this way, the Bengals are pretty pissed that the Falcons took Sewell and they're missing out on the left tackle. definitely that would probably be who they would take if he was there. But if somebody else takes the tackle, then I think Chase is a good fit.
Easy sell to Burrow. Hey, we're bringing in your guy.
Yeah, man. And honestly, for an NFL quarterback, like, hey, drop back 3 steps, 5 steps, hit the hitch, throw it up in the air, let him run under it.
And Justin Jefferson went
that's as
nuts
good as a
last
safety
year.
route. Yeah, that's as good as a fucking a safety route as you could have in the NFL. Is a guy that's just going to fucking burn down the sideline. Nobody's going to be able to cover him. And even if somebody does stay with him step for step, he's going to go up over the top of him and catch it anyway.
With phenomenal hands as well. Jefferson balled out with Kirk Cousins. Chase may be better than Jefferson, and Burrow may be better than Cousins. So this is a nice, tandem moving forward for Cincinnati.
That LSU team, probably one of the best college football teams I've ever seen. Toss up between them and like the 2001 Miami team of who's better. But, Clemson, everybody was writing them in as national champion that year because they're going to go back to back. Trevor Lawrence, they're going to win it again. And LSU whipped their ass in the title game. That wasn't even close. In the playoff game before that, Burrow had like 7 touchdowns in the first half. Jamar Chase was going nuts. They had to take him out of the game.
One of the things that you also, when you bring in, you have a quarterback and you bring in a receiver, you're hoping that they get some chemistry together. You don't have to worry about that already. It gets at a great point there. They went to school together. They know each other.
Yeah.
Chemistry's already there. So this is a plug and play from day one. It's a replacement and an upgrade, at least over the last 5-6 years, of what A.J. Green has been.
And let's be honest, nobody wants to live in Cincinnati, stay in Cincinnati. If they're there together, they're maybe less likely to leave as free agent.
You got a much better chance. You're correct of keeping them there, trying to, hey, we're going to build this thing together. We're going to bring this, Cincinnati back. They haven't been a winner since. When's the last time Cincinnati was like a real 88? Was that when they went to the Super Bowl?
Boomer Esiason?
All the way back then.
They were actually good when Palmer hurt his leg in the playoff game.
That was what's his face never won a playoff game in Cincinnati though. The coach, Marvin Lewis.
Carson Palmer, they won the division that year. Their first playoff game was against the Steelers, and Carson Palmer blew out his leg on the first series.
It was a beautiful pass. He blew his leg out on.
Yeah, and a fucking 80-yard touchdown.
I think Andy Dalton made it to the playoffs 2 or 3 times. He didn't win in the playoffs either, but he made it to
They made it there, but the last time they made any noise as far as winning a couple of playoff games, you weren't even born yet. And
Boomer.
We're like fucking 10, 11 years old. With all the way back in 88. So
that was a great Super Bowl, by the way.
It was a fantastic Super Bowl with the Niners coming back and winning. Very, very good Super Bowl. Now, it's down to the 6th and final pick of the day.
Let's go. Who you got?
Fly, Eagles, fly. Pick is in.
All right, there we go.
Eagles have been searching for a pick for a while.
This is what they call fan service. Joel knows I wanted this guy, so Joel gave him to me. I appreciate it, homie.
I got you, homie. But I was going down a list, and really, like I said, it was going off of of who I think they're going to pick, and the left tackle already gone. You can always take a left tackle. I know Peters is gone now, and you also have you've got the quarterbacks. You don't really need one right now. At least you got a guy that you want to take a look at, right? So you go with a shutdown corner. Go ahead and cut that field in half. Make your pass rusher's life a little bit easier because that quarter, they're not out there on an island for, you've got that half that side. You don't have to worry about it. This dude's been nasty at Alabama, who's been churning out corners. He was, he's got the pedigree. I like this pick for the Eagles. I don't think any Eagles fan will complain on this one.
Here's another one where I love the player and I love the pick. It's a fucking immediate fit. It's a team need in the NFL. If you're drafting in the top 10, you want generational players. You want impact players that are going to be Pro Bowl guys that are going to make an impact every week. And this kid is a monster. He's 6'1", 6'2", 215, 220. Most corners aren't that big.
He can cover Kyle Pitts. And I know Pitts scored a touchdown on him.
That means he can cover anybody on the field. There's no this guy. And believe me, as an Eagles fan, we've had the little fucking 5'9", 5'10" corners who dudes just go up over him in the end zone. So I'm sick of it. Now we get a big shutdown corner. The guy has only given up 3 touchdowns in 2 years as a starter. 3 touchdowns.
In the SEC.
In the SEC.
Real quick, Joel, you cannot tell a Jets fan that Alabama churns out corners when we drafted Demo. So that's number one.
No, you're
you
right.
cannot tell a Jets fan that Alabama churns out corners.
Is it, you got the one bad one. You were supposed to
Yeah,
be
you got
the
one
can't
bad-
miss.
Yeah, the one bad one, of course, goes to the
He was
Jets.
supposed to be the absolute can't miss, and the Jets got the one bad one.
My question for you guys, with corners, do you put any stock on their 40 time? Because I was a little surprised to see non-electronic him running in the mid-4.4s. I thought he was faster than that.
I mean,
No.
it means nothing. If you're running a 4.4 and saying he's slow, to me, that's ridiculous. Like, 10 years ago, there was nobody in the league that ran a 4.4. If somebody ran a 4.4 at a pro day or a combine, it was, league-wide news. So now to say that a dude running a 4.4 is slow, no way.
And he's
Also-
a side speed combo, like you said. Would you rather have a guy that was a little bit faster, but he's 5'10"? He's the best of both worlds here. He's fast enough, at very least fast enough, and he's big.
He's prototypical. He looks like Patrick Peterson. That's what he looks like. That's what he plays like. I don't care if he runs a 4.4 because he's shutting dudes down on game day. He's only given up 3 touchdowns in 2 full years as a starter. And he's a lockdown corner to the point they played in a playoff game, and the opposing coach, they asked him about Patrick Surtain, and the opposing coach goes, well, we just won't throw to that side of the field. So basically he's cutting off the whole entire side of the field. Quarterback's not even looking that way. That's a shutdown corner. That's a lockdown corner.
Now, Getz, correct me if I'm wrong on this here, right? But if you're talking about just a straight 9 route, right? So your fly route right off the list, or right off the line, usually a guy's getting beat like that. If he's trying to jam, he's getting yoked out of the way, and then the guy's running past him. You're not going to be able to jam, or if he's jamming you, you're not going to be able to knock Pat Surtain off of his balance to get behind him, where that tenth of a second speed difference is going to come up. He's going to jam you actually, and that's going to give him the advantage.
And he's 6'2", 220. Look at him, bro. He's built. I saw. I don't like to get into the underwear Olympics and the pro days. I think the whole entire thing is completely overrated. Tom Brady had probably the worst pro day in history. He ran like a 5'2", 5'3", 40. He had a 24-inch vertical jump. That's why he went in the 6th round. And now we talk about him as the greatest quarterback ever. So putting stock into the pro days, not really my thing.
Go ahead.
I want to add one thing. I want to know what you think about it, because the guy who's number 2, and I've seen scouts put him back and forth, is Caleb Farley from Virginia. He's also 6'2", about 210. He ran a 4.37, and the last 2 years he leads the nation in passes deflected. Former wide receiver, has got good ball skills.
Didn't he also just have a back surgery?
No, he had a back procedure.
Like procedure is surgery.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you. That's a red flag. That's a red flag. But some scouts have said that he's going to still be ready for training camp, and it's not going to affect him. So I like Surtain a lot.
Yeah.
As a person who's had a back surgery, for them to be like, oh yeah, he's going to have a minor back surgery, but he'll be ready for training camp. Nope. Joel Embiid was out like 2 years.
They're not cutting him open. It's not like a procedure, supposedly. But either way.
Even still, if you got a chance to pick the dude who has no issues, and then you got to pick the guy that has some issues, and you're arguing who's better between the two of them, you take the guy that's healthy.
Yeah, I'm with that.
He went to Alabama with one of the best defensive back coaches in history. They have an unbelievable coaching staff, so he's got the best coaching his entire time there. He's also pedigreed. His father was a starting corner in the NFL. His father was also the starting corner on the Miami team of 2001 that we just mentioned. That was one of the best teams of all time. That's his father. So he's grown up since he was 2-3 years old. His father probably showing him, hey, do this, do that, backpedal here, watch this. Even in high school games, telling him, hey, watch the receiver's feet right here. This dude has been breathing and eating nothing but football since he was a little kid, and thinking that he was going to be the best corner in the country, and eventually he was.
Now, I'm no Dolphin fan, but I have lived down here, and Pat Surtain and Sam Madison was a very sick cornerback combo. That is fun to watch. I can't bet against this kid, like you said, his pedigree. It just gives you the little extra sprinkle, like that little extra thing that Clay Thompson and that Steph have, that they've been around the game so much, they're comfortable around it. It takes away that extra learning curve where the big bright lights aren't an issue for them. From day one, they're ready to ride. This kid's gonna step in, put an Eagles jersey on, and he's gonna be a starting Pro Bowl level quarterback.
Say it again
for the next 8 to 10 years. Now, I do have a question, Getz, because I hemmed and hawed on this pick a little bit.
I'm praying.
I bounced back and forth a couple times between this pick here because we're also seeing that they may like Parsons. But I'm seeing defense for everything for the Eagles right now, or at least going through all the Twitter feeds. Parsons was one that I looked at a little bit, but it seems to be leaning more towards Surtain than it is to Parsons.
I like Parsons too. Parsons is 6'5", 6'6", 245, 250. He ran a 4.39 if we want to talk about 40 times. So being that big, 6'6", 250, and you're running a 4.39, that there's not too many humans in history that can do that.
Different level athlete, yeah.
In the NFL, you have foundational positions. You need a good quarterback. You need the left tackle. You need a defensive end pass rusher. You need a corner. Parsons is more of a drop linebacker. He's like a 4-3 outside linebacker. Probably be a Sam in the league where you're kind of, covering tight ends, jamming tight ends, playing the run to the strong side. He's not really a pass rusher, which is elevated in the NFL. Even if you see some of the mock drafts lately and some of the stuff where they're evaluating players, it doesn't even say defensive end anymore. It says edge.
Word.
So that guy could be a tweener of a defensive end or a 3-4 outside linebacker on the outside like Lawrence Taylor, where he's doing nothing but just rushing the passer.
True. Now, the other thing with that was that after just looking at it, the bigger need for the Eagles was in the secondary. Your linebacker core.
Our secondary has sucked for a long time.
Yeah, your linebacker core was okay. The other thing with that is too, you haven't had a real number one corner there in a while. So when you have a true number one, everybody else in that secondary looks so much better because they've taken that one aspect, that number one receiver, completely out of there. This needs to happen for the Eagles if you're moving forward.
Please, I'm praying. And the other thing is, if you have a corner like that, you don't let them go. Like, those guys get signed, they get extended. You very rarely see guys like that pop up on the free agent market. And we've had the misfortune of signing one of them, Nnamdi Asomugha, who everybody told me was a generational cornerback. This guy's a stud. He'll cover anybody. And then he sucked.
You signed Byron Maxwell too. You signed two.
He wasn't supposed to be great.
They weren't the same level as Nnamdi, but he was the number one corner that year, though.
Asante Samuel was the other one that we signed, and he actually turned out to be pretty good. He wasn't as great as they said he was going to be, but he was good.
And his son is going to be a second-round steal in the NFL.
He just didn't like to tackle. Asante Samuel was allergic to tackling.
Yeah, he thought he was Dion a little bit, but his son is going to be probably a second round. Maybe he slips to the third a little bit. He's just because he's got the stink of FSU on him right now. But Asante Samuel Jr. It is not good to be an FSU player at the present second here.
but he still has really good coverage grades in college. He can play.
And to be honest with you, his father was a good cover corner too. Like you said, his father, Asante had two issues.
Asante could cover anybody if you put him in the zone.
Hair small.
If you put him in the zone, he had great instincts to jump into the passing lane and get a pick here and there. He just didn't tackle. So what teams did when it came to a big, divisional game where we needed to win or a playoff game, they would just run right at him. You'd see a sweep come around at him. He'd be diving out of bounds or running away from it and shit.
He got to Atlanta when he was a couple of years older, and he liked tackling even less in Atlanta than he did with these fucking.
Really, the Falcons had him.
Yeah, he played 3 years in Atlanta towards the end.
I thought he just retired after the Eagles. I didn't even know.
No, he was good. He was good for us. He played in some playoff games. He started in the 2012 season when they were playing. I won't say what happened in 2012. We talked about it enough. Other stuff happened.